Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer here, and today I'm going to be doing something I don't do a whole lot of. I'm going to be looking at a new first-person shooter that's coming out. The game is called Verdun. It's in beta testing right now. You can download it for free. I'll throw the link in right here at the bottom of the screen, and also in the description. But it's a new first-person shooter that's being worked on. It's a World War I setting, as you may know, based on the appearance of these guys up here, and also the name Verdun, named after the Battle of Verdun, which was the longest battle during the entire First World War. The battle took place from February of 1916 until December of 1916. It was over 9 months long. And was one of the bloodiest battles. It was the bloodiest battle up to that point, and would end up being one of the bloodiest battles during the war. Now, the game is a little bit interesting. Like I said, I don't normally do first-person shooters, but this definitely has more of a historical and vibe to it. You can still tell kind of by the running around and shooting that the way that, you know, shooting is occurring and running around. It's not Arma. It's not an ultra-realistic FPS designed to be totally realistic, but it is somewhat unique, and in a couple of ways, and I'll talk about it. First, the setting of World War I. You don't see many World War I based shooters, and that in of itself is appealing. You know, I'm very interested in historical games, historical settings, and that in of itself is somewhat unique. The second factor is the game modes. They've got a free-for-all game mode, so, you know, that's pretty typical in a lot of shooters. But they also have something called front lines, which is really the second main way of playing the game. They have free-for-all if you just want to kind of play on your own and run around and shoot, but the game is really designed for what is called front lines. And what that is it is a game mode where you play on teams. So there's the German team and there's the French team, and essentially you try and take over different sections of the map. So in that way, it's very similar to Battlefield's multiplayer, where you've kind of got a map that kind of goes back and forth and you're really fighting over elements of the map. Not so much, you know, Team Deathmatch in Call of Duty or Ground War in Call of Duty, or, you know, most of the Call of Duty play style where you don't really have a flowing map that goes back and forth. In this game you do, and it's called Frontlines. But what makes this even more unique is kind of the way that I believe they're trying to implement more tactical and more realistic play. As you could tell there, that was pretty free-for-all-ish, but there were teams. And you didn't really get a sense of the map going back and forth in this clip so far, and really I don't have any good clips of it, but it definitely does occur. And as different parts of the map fall under your team's control, it affects the other team in some way. So you don't just have random spawns like most shooters, where you just spawn in a random spot and you might be behind enemy lines, you might be in front of them. You spawn behind the lines in your own team's area, and you can actually spawn in different locations, but they always have to be controlled by your team. So at some point, if you're killed and your team doesn't have any spawns left, because that area of the map is now controlled by the enemy, you can't spawn until your team retakes one of those areas. Now, if all of them are held, and after a certain point, basically, if the enemy takes the entire map, you lose. Or if all the spawns are taken and there may be a corner of the map you have, but it's not really considered a spawn spot, then when you're all dead, obviously you lose. So in this sense, it's much more about map control than it is just racking up death counts or kill counts. But obviously, if the more enemy you kill, the easier it's going to be to take the territory, because, well, the enemy has to start back at their spawn, so you can really get a sense of pushing the enemy back. Now, the other thing that makes this game mode Frontlines very interesting is the way that team making is handled. And it's not a game where you just get to pick, I want to fire the Kar 98, which they have added, or I want to fire the Mauser 98, or I want to fire the Lebel. You obviously get some choice in the matter, but the way that games are set up is each side is made up of squads of 4. Every squad has a corporal who's in charge. That's where I was running around earlier with a pistol. That's when you're the corporal. They have a rifleman, which has just a standard bolt-action rifle. If you're the Germans, it'll be the Mauser. If you're the French, it'll be the Lebel, which they just added in the newest update. And you see me running around here with the Lebel. If you're the machine gunner, they've added to the French the Chacha, which is kind of like an assault rifle submachine gun. It's kind of one of the really early portable light machine guns that existed during World War I. If you're the Germans, I don't know if they have an equivalent, although they do have a heavier machine gun that you have to lay down to deploy here. That's actually what I just cut away to and you see on the screen right now. Also, I've seen them in free-for-all, but I haven't seen them yet in team play. They also have sniper rifles where you just kind of get a standard bolt-action rifle that gets thrown onto the, that gets a scope thrown onto the end of it. And really what they're trying to do, and I'm sorry, so I said there's the corporal, which is in charge. You get a pistol, but you can also call in mortar strikes. I haven't had the chance to do that yet, so I'm not quite sure how that affects gameplay, but it sounds kind of cool, kind of like a kill streak, if you will, where you call in artillery, but only the corporal can do it. That's the one wielding the pistol. Then you've got the rifleman, who wields a bolt-action rifle. You've got the machine gunner, who wields the machine gun, as you see here on the screen. And then you've also got the grenadier, who carries a rifle, but also has grenades that you can toss and deploy and whatnot. The corporal also has grenades, I believe. You saw it earlier on the screen. So those are the 4 different members of a squad. Now, to join an online game, what you do is, let's say you want to play. If you want to play free-for-all, simply you click on it, you play. You get thrown right into the middle of the game. If you want to play front lines, you click on it, you join, and you get thrown into a squad. So if there's 3 people waiting to get in, you'll be the 4th person. You'll get whatever slots left over, be it corporal, machine gunner, grenadier, rifleman, and then you'll join an ongoing battle. Now, you have to join in teams. So essentially, when you've got 4 and the enemy has 4, then you're put into a battle. Initially, it goes 4 on 4, but it can actually end in, I believe, 12 on 12 is the highest I've seen, where you have 3 squads on each side. So, you know, a 24-person online battle. But if you only have 3 people, you have to wait for your squad to fill up. So it's designed for that kind of cooperative play where you have members who are playing each other, but are playing in a team-based way. So it's not so individualistic like Team Deathmatch or Domination or any other, you know, more modern or mainstream first-person shooter. The graphics are pretty good. I like them. They're not AAA title quality, but they don't need to be because the game is a very different type of game. It's not focusing on graphics, although I really do like the visuals. You know, some of the maps, you'll probably see more of just one of the maps on here, but they do have multiple maps. They just added another one, which is called Vos, which is still trench warfare, but it's supposed to be in the Vosges Mountains, so there's some more trees. It's not quite as littered with shell casings or shell craters, if you will, given the terrain kind of made it different than sort of that flat Verdun-like plain where everything just got pummeled into oblivion. So you get some mountains and things like that. They're working on the game. They, like I said, they just implemented Vos. They just added the Lebel rifle. They just made a lot of changes. So while the game is in beta, it doesn't seem like it's really ready for release yet. It's still having a lot of work being done to it. So they're definitely improving the game, you know. Like, I may have mentioned this already, but when I first started playing it, they didn't have any rifle except for the Mauser. And now, you know, within the last couple of weeks, they've added the Lebel, which is the French Army's main rifle, whereas the Mausers was the Germans. And the guns have differing characteristics, so you'll see, you know, you may have already seen me reloading here with the Lebel, but the German gun, the Mauser, when you run out of ammo here, what happens is you have a stripper clip that you put in with 5 rounds, so you can reload a lot quicker. The French weapon holds 8 rounds, but it's a tube magazine, so you have to individually insert each bullet, and it just kind of gets pressed forward, you know, one bullet after another. So it's a very different type of gun, and a lot of people didn't like the Lebel because it was a disadvantage. And I like that they didn't just gloss over that they kept the gun realistic and that you have to load each round individually. Now, it also tries to encourage realistic play because in most shooters, you have a magazine, you run out of ammo, you just drop the magazine, throw in a new one. If you're halfway through your clip, you can top off, same, just as quick, sometimes quicker. In this game, if you're not all the way through your 5-round clip on the German gun and you try and reload, you've got to reload 1 bullet at a time. If you try and reload with the French gun, you've got to reload 1 bullet at a time. So it encourages kind of, well, not even encourages, but it's a more realistic sort of sense of how to play. Like I said, it's not an ultra-realistic first-person shooter. It's not designed to be Arma, but it kind of fits that meld, I would say, between more mainstream Call of Duty fun, if you want to call it. Maybe not fun for me, but I think more mainstream fun, you know, fast arcadey kind of play, and the more realistic shooters like Arma. So from that sense, it's kind of an interesting blend, and it covers a topic that really is not covered very much, and the weapons are very unique. You may not like them because you've got to shoot one, you know, most of you are going to be shooting bolt-action rifles, so it's one bullet after another, where you have to pull the trigger, wait for you to cock the gun back, pull the trigger, wait for you to cock the gun back. But it still is different, and whether you like that or not, whether you like that slower pace or not, hey, everyone's different. One other thing that you've already seen on here is that the ranges that combat occurs at are much longer. So yes, there's running and gunning when you're running in circles around a bad guy and you're firing from the hip, but a lot less so than in Call of Duty or other modern first-person shooters. I keep bringing up Call of Duty just because it's probably the one that most people here are familiar with. It's the most mainstream, but most modern FPSs, you run circles around people and you shoot. You can camp, you can shoot at longer ranges. Battlefield is a good example of having longer range combat. But this is kind of an interesting mix where the maps are not huge, they're not ginormous, but they're not small. And because of the trench warfare standpoint, you can probably get away with a slightly smaller map because the ranges are able to be occurring at the fighting is able to be occurring at such a long range relative to other first-person shooters. But the open terrain and the trenches and the obstacles all inhibit you from sprinting from one side of the map to the other without getting killed barely out of your trench. That's one other thing worth mentioning here. There's a lot of barbed wire and obstacles, and in that sense, if you try and run through barbed wire, you are going to die. And just so you see what I mean, here's a quick clip of me doing just that. If you can't just run through it, you'll get kind of caught up, you'll get kind of slowed down, and if you keep trying to press on through, you'll die. You'll succumb to wire injuries, which is another really cool feature, I think, and is very different from anything else that I've seen out there. And like I said, is just really interesting to me. One other thing I'm going to bring up here, according to the website for the game, as you level up, as you gain experience, your appearance changes and you unlock different weapons. So you start off with kind of a more basic kit, and you kind of earn your way toward a more late war kit. So I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. Maybe you start off with only, you know, bolt action rifle, a basic pistol, and, you know, maybe not even the cha-cha as being an option. Maybe it's just like a rifle, just a regular bolt-action rifle. As you go through the war, or as you gain experience, you get later war equipment. So, you know, maybe access to sniper rifles, which I've only seen in free-for-all, potentially, because people aren't maybe leveled up enough to get it in the front lines. And your appearance changes to be more war-grizzled veterans. So maybe you start the war where you're all in bright-colored uniforms, and by the end of the war, you look like a grizzled veteran. And that's kind of an interesting thing. They're also trying to encourage team play. As I already said, the 4-player squads is a way to encourage team play, but they want you to play with your friends, in that you guys can have your own designated squad where you all play together. So if you play with friends frequently, you get bonus rewards, and you're based on your squad's combined experience level. So as you all get more experience, as you all play more together, you're going to get more powerful because you're going to unlock those, you know, those weapons later on. Whether this makes this a game where the early adopters get a huge advantage over the later adopters, I don't know. It's too early to tell if there's a good balance there, but it's definitely kind of a different take on it. I don't know also if you designate a specific squad, so if you get like, I'm Alpha Squad or whatnot, or if it's just you know, those squads get those benefits based on whoever is in the squad at that time. Because if you don't play with your friends, if you're just jumping in and joining the game, then, you know, you can still get in the squad with other people. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if it's really your squad, your 4 friends, or if it's really just your squad and everyone else in it getting an average experience and giving you extra bonuses. So that I'm not quite sure of yet either. The games, you can also play the game in your favorite browser. So you want to play it in Chrome, you want to play it in Mozilla, you can play the game through browser play, which is interesting. It does admit that it lowers the quality of the play when you're playing it through the browser. I've only played the standalone version, but either way, it's an interesting, you know, fact that a new first-person shooter, which has been greenlit on Steam, is playable through the browser, and it makes it more multi-platform. I don't know how that works, if at some point they'll add some kind of compatibility for tablets, but the team's tech page actually says that they are considering cross-platform gaming, and I assume that means more than just Windows and Mac playing together. It is also supported on Linux, I don't want to forget about that. So as far as that's concerned, that could be interesting. They're also saying they'd be interested in getting on a console, but I think they're going to have to release this on PC and get a fully done version before we can, for sure say how this game will turn out. I'm not sure how it'll do with the masses. I think the fact that the beta is free is going to get them, some attention and some people to play it. Like I said, it is free, so the link here is in the description. I already threw it also up on the screen if you want to check it out. It's free. If you like first-person shooters, there's no reason not to check it out. But, yeah, I may do a more formal review a little bit later on, but as far as that's concerned, I'm going to wrap this video up. I've been putting a lot of time into it. It's a fun game, and I'd recommend checking it out. So, thanks for watching. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer, signing out.